Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you are going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The translation of that message, it reads like this. Hello, my brother, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? My brother, I only tasted what is good in life. This was for only 1 year. After that, I then saw that life was never good because of the rituals that I did. Well, it was in the year 2015. That was when I found myself being in South Africa. You once posted this other story about this other woman who used to follow the railway and following the train as she was picking up maize grains that the train would have dropped. I went through that same process, but I was not going around following the train. Usually what I will do is that whenever people would have finished harvesting their maize from their fields, then I would go and ask so that at least I can pick up whatever that they would have left behind. Well, my brother, I used to do this, and whenever I would return back home, my husband, him being a lazy man, he would actually take the maize that I would have picked up and he would go and sell it. He didn't even sell it for cash. He would actually sell it for a 2-liter bottle of traditional beer. That other one that they cook for 7 days, or the one that they usually cook, which is more like brandy. Usually here we call it chikokiana. And this man used to do this all the times. I was always hurt and I was feeding the whole family. I was hungry, and whenever you would be drunk, you would actually demand that I give him some sexual favors throughout the night, and I would have worked throughout the day. That was when I said enough is enough. When I came to South Africa, my brother, I only had 20 rand in my pocket. And as a woman, if you go to another country with only 20 rand in your pocket, you know what is going to be the end result. When I was stuck, well, the first man who picked me up in Musina, because I wanted to go to Joburg. That is where I heard that you can actually find a better job. The man who took me to Joburg, along the way, he said, well, you do not have money and you got into my car. So what were you expecting? Along the way, he would stop at different lodges as he would sleep with me. This man, he spoke in a strange language that I had never heard of. After I had stayed in South Africa for about a year, that was when I understood that the guy, he was a Sotho-speaking man. He slept with me several times and he didn't use any protection. He was angry at me. He blamed me for ever hitchhiking into his car, knowing that I didn't have any papers, because at one toll gate he had to pretend as if he was my husband so that I would not get arrested. So I had to sleep with him, but I am thankful. And at the same time, I just wish that maybe along the way, if I had been arrested and if I had been returned back to my country, maybe I would have not become this woman that I am right now. But my kids were going to starve. Well, when I arrived in Joburg, he dropped me at this other area and I found that there were a lot of Zim ladies that were selling there. They were actually selling their own bodies, but I didn't want to be like that. I then started looking for work. This was after they had told me that there was this other area. If I could return in the morning, then I would stand at the robot. That is where a lot of people would come and pick up maids. I then just went around sleeping at this other engine garage. And early in the morning, I walked towards that place where they had directed me. And I was fortunate enough because there was one man who picked me up. He was a white man. They were looking for a maid. I then started working for them as their maid. I was staying in the plots. It was just a small plot. Whilst I was working for them, then I fell in love with their gardener. Then we started staying together. My brother, I then fell pregnant and I had a miscarriage. I then fell pregnant again. Then I had the second miscarriage. So I had to return back home. This was after me and this guy had saved enough money. When I returned back home, I then thought that it was a wiser decision for me to find out what was going on with me. That was when I was told that this guy there was someone in his own family who actually was using him like he was more like a spiritual husband. The relative is a tokoloshi, that is a female tokoloshi. So this tokoloshi was coming to sleep with this guy. So actually, whenever I was pregnant, when I would make love to this man that I was staying with, there would be poison that he would insert into my womb, the poison that would later destroy everything that God was creating in my womb. So I said, what am I supposed to do? That was when the prophet told me that I was already contaminated, and this tokoloshi, it had gotten so angry at me so much that it wanted me to die. And already I was having strange dreams. Usually I would have dreams whereby I would be climbing down a grave, and then people will start to bury me alive, some of my relatives included. And this made me to question even my own self, if I was still sane or if I was losing my mind, because how can I have a dream so strange like that? Then that prophet told me that yes, this dream that I was having, it was actually my ancestors that were showing me that since I had been contaminated by this man who had been dedicated to be a husband of a tokoloshi, and it was my time to die because the tokoloshi had inserted some poison into my body, which was slowly destroying me. Well, I then asked that prophet, what was I supposed to do? This prophet then said that it is a far much wiser decision that you speak with your own relative so that you communicate with your ancestors. They are the only ones that can fight for you. I still remember that I traveled from the village. I have this other auntie of mine. She is working in the city as a nurse. And I approached her thinking that she was going to help me out since she was the eldest in the family. When I arrived at her place, I then told her that I wanted a ceremony to be done so that the ancestors can protect me, because I was about to die. And if I was going to die, who was going to take care of my kids? And it was not a very big ceremony. All that was supposed to be done, there was supposed to be one amongst my father's relatives who was supposed to be present, so that when this traditional beer would be poured to the ground, then the ancestors will accept that traditional beer. But my auntie, she refused totally. She said she does not want to get involved in all of that stuff, because she said that there were so many issues that were still in the family that were supposed to be solved first. She said, if we start communicating with the ancestors today, tomorrow maybe I am going to die, because there are some issues that we are supposed to sort out. Like there are tombstones that were supposed to be laid on my grandmother's grave, and there were rituals that were supposed to be performed first before we could buy the tombstone and place it on her grave. And we had to look for her relatives, and her relatives were from Malawi. She said it is far much better that we leave it at where it is right now. You see, my kids are actually progressing in life. I do not want to touch things that I won't be able to control. Well, feeling disappointed, I then returned back to that prophet who said, the only advice that I can give you is try to find a traditional healer. And he said that try to find a traditional healer, the one that throws bones to the ground. That one can assist you. So I then went around until I had found this other traditional healer who throws bones to the ground. Then I was assisted by that lady traditional healer. She told me that indeed she was seeing that the bones were revealing to her that the spirit of the tokoloshi was actually haunting me. So what we were supposed to do was that since she could not communicate with my ancestors directly, then we had to communicate with this tokoloshi. Well, they did this thing in our language that they call kwahaka, which what they do is that they command that evil spirit to come and possess your body, so that this evil spirit can actually speak through you. At that time, I was unconscious. When I woke up, I was then told that this tokoloshi had actually said that it wanted me to sacrifice 2 cows so that it can forgive me, because I had tried to steal this tokoloshi's husband. I said, 2 cows, where am I going to get these 2 cows? After this tokoloshi had spoken through me when it was possessing me, when I told the traditional healer that I could not give this tokoloshi 2 cows, the healer said that I was then in a trance again. The tokology, it seemed as if it was listening to me, and then it possessed my body, and it said that, well, it is fine. If she cannot afford 2 cows, what I want her to do is at least let her give me one of her relatives. I want her to give me one of her relatives so that this relative of mine can actually be the person that I am going to use to quench my thirst. When I woke up, I was told this, and I sacrificed my brother. I then mentioned the name of one of my cousin brother who was staying in Cape Town. He was just someone who was struggling in life, a poor man who was just working in the construction company. Well, one day when he woke up, one day when the neighbors woke up, they found out that he had not gone to work. So the landlord tried to knock on the door, and they saw that there was no one who was responding. When they finally broke down the door, they saw that there was white foam that had covered his mouth. His eyes were opened up as if he had seen something terrible and scary at the time of his death. That is how my cousin brother passed away. This cousin brother of mine, when he had came to South Africa, he had never returned back home because of poverty. He had never found a proper job in South Africa. So when I sacrificed him, I thought that maybe that was it. Then this tokology started returning back to me. So after the burial of my cousin brother, that was when I had that dream whereby I saw this same tokology. Well, I thought that maybe it had came to tell me that now that I had sacrificed, it was going to leave me, and I had no desire to return back to South Africa because I had to go back and stay with that man. How was I going to stay with a man who had a tokology that had tried to kill me? So this tokology, when it appeared to me, it was just an old woman. So I was walking alone in a forest that was really dark. So I was scared. That was when I saw this old woman who told me that she was a wife to my ex-husband, the one that I had stayed with, my ex-boyfriend, whom I had stayed with in South Africa. Then that old lady said, if you give me the chance, I am going to walk with you, and you do not have to be afraid of this dark forest because I can actually fight for you. When I agreed, that is how this tokology came into my life. This tokology told me that it had actually liked the way that I was, the way that I had sacrificed my own cousin brother, and it wanted more. It said that if I would actually, this tokology said that if I was willing to sacrifice one amongst my relatives after each and every 6 years, then it will actually give me great wealth. I agreed, my brother, and at that time after I had agreed, that is when I enjoyed for a year. Out of nowhere, my brother, people saw me having a small business in Harare, and I was making money. I started by being a money changer. So what this tokology will do is that, let's say if there was someone who was traveling to Botswana and the person would be wanting pula, then I would actually buy the US dollars from them, then give them the pula. Like when they would be traveling to South Africa, I would sell them South African rands, then they would give me their US dollars. So this tokology, what the tokology will do is that it will follow that person wherever that person would go for a given time. Then that person will keep on losing money until I would have made enough money. I made so much money that within a couple of weeks, I was driving a car. You know, like here, if you can buy a car for cash, no one will ever ask you, where did you get the money from? And that is how I enjoyed money. That is how I enjoyed being rich for almost a year. Then it all just died down. I tried to communicate with this tokology, and it didn't communicate with me back. Then there was this other day when my child had returned back from school. So whilst my child was busy preparing her lunch, that was when I heard that she was making a lot of noise. It was a scary sight, my brother, that I saw. My child, she was tearing off all of her school books. It was like she was losing her mind. When I entered into the kitchen, when I shouted at her, she laughed at me. Then she started writing her name. She wrote her name over and over and over again. Then finally, she wrote that this is the one that I have chosen so that I can quench my thirst. And that Tokoloshi then said that I just wanted you to experience what it is like to enjoy life. Now, are you ready for the sacrifice? If you are ready, let's start with your daughter. That is where I am right now. The Tokoloshi said that I will make sure that I will close all the doors in your lives. You will never be able to find anyone that will be willing to help you. And this has been happening to me constantly. I have visited several pastors. At the end of the day, I would even question myself if there is such a thing like a true pastor. I can actually be with a pastor in his office, then the man will start lusting after my body, trying to take advantage of my desperate situation, just like the Tokoloshi promised me. Please assist me in any kind of way that you can.